Welcome back to the 10th episode of the Diving Into Sports podcast with your hosts Lyle
and Nash.
Henry. Let's dive into today's topic. Rickie finally got a win. He finally got a win just a few weeks after giving up his chance at the U.S. Open. He won the Rocket Mortgage Classic in a playoff against Collin Morikawa and Adam Hadwin. And I think it's safe to say that almost everyone was rooting for him. I mean, it's been a long time since he's won. The last time he had won before this was 2019. And he's a big fan favorite, so it was great to see it happen to him, such a great person.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like you were turning back the ages since it's been so long since he's really been dominant on the PGA Tour. But lately, he's been playing really good golf, and it was a fun week just because of that, because it was just fun to see a name that you always think of because he's been so good in the past, but finally rise up again to the top.
Yeah, and then to see the other players try to catch him too, it's not like he just ran away with it. He played great golf the whole week, but it was still very competitive. I mean, three-way playoffs are not that common on the PGA Tour, but that happened this week and it was entertaining to watch. And then right behind Hadwin, Fowler, and Morikawa was Taylor Moore and Lucas Glover, who I was happy to see up there. He's a U.S. Open winner in the past, but getting up there in age, so a top 5 these days for him is really great.
Yeah, and then tied with those two was Peter West, also BYU alum. He's played some really good golf lately, his first year on the PGA Tour. This was by far his best finish so far, so that was nice to see him up there. I believe he was the 36-hole leader. Yeah, that's 36 or 18-hole leader.
The 18-hole leader. Yeah, he shot 8 under in round 1. But there's been a few really good weeks on the PGA Tour in a row, and it's shown because, I mean, obviously there was a lot of buzz about the new merger, and it kind of just threw people's attention off of the actual golf itself. But it's in great shape, and I love seeing tournaments be so close like this. Especially, I love watching tournaments where there's wild weather too, and it was rainy in the weekend especially. It got very rainy in Detroit, and that's always fun to watch the best players in the world battle the elements.
In fact, if you ask me, the only bad thing about this tournament was that the last round, the leaders teed off at 9 o'clock Eastern time where we are, and they weren't broadcasting on TV then because they moved the tee times up due to bad weather. So because of that, the last day was really kind of a humble jumble because it was hard to watch televised, so you kind of had to watch on the app or listen on the radio. So it was really tricky, but Rickie Fowler got the win, so that's all that matters in the end, because I was rooting for him at least when it came down to the end.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about not being able to watch it on their TV, but I just was able to watch it on a computer because that's the only place we could. And like Nash just said, Rickie was who we were rooting for sure. I mean, if it would have gone another week with him being so close but not getting a trophy, I think I would have lost my mind, because he has been so close for so long, and he's really on the rise back. I mean, he was so good, and then he kind of fell off a cliff for kind of 2020, 2021. He was really in no man's land, and he's, let's just say, came back in full strength. Top 10 in FedEx Cup now, definitely going to make the playoffs and could make a run at the FedEx Cup title.
And yeah, the fact that it only took one playoff hole to decide the winner really shows just how dominant Rickie was. It showed that he should be the winner. He had a 3 on the extra hole, while Morikawa and Hadwin both had 4. So Fowler was, in my opinion, the clear winner there. Both Morikawa and Hadwin played great golf the whole week. Fowler, you could tell, had the momentum more than they did.
And then I saw some stat about this week how like some of the most golfers made the cut this year in a long time. And yeah, there were a lot. 84 golfers made the cut, it looks like. And that is very unusual, I would say. Usually it's in the 70s. So for it to be 84 is quite big. And the people, and I always like to just look at the bottom of the leaderboard of people who made the cut and people who missed the cut. How about Matthias Schwab shooting over 6 in round 4? For Detroit Golf Club, over 6 is not very common for these pros because it's a more gettable course. Obviously, you have the winner at 24 under, so if that tells you anything. And then the worst person who missed the cut was Brandon Matthews, the long hitter who finished at over 9 on the week. He's really this year been a big hit or miss. Either he has a good week or a great week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the easier courses Detroit Golf Club is on the PGA Tour, just because the weather made it a bit more difficult today, but the pin placements were fairly easy the whole week, and there are some pretty gettable par threes. I mean, not like the LACC long par threes. It's a pretty classic professional course. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a tricky course, but for these guys, they make it look pretty easy. A course like this.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind the LA Country Club, obviously where the U.S. Open was this year, had par 3s going into the 290-yard range. Nowhere near this week, and those are the type of holes that just, if you have one really long hole, especially a par 3 like that, that can just make your round go from good to bad or bad to worse in a blink of an eye. So for a course not to have any holes like that, and a lot of really gettable, birdieable holes, you see these low scores for good reason.
Two things that I was impressed about this week, though, was first how good in shape the course was, really, frankly, after that bad weather that came through Michigan. The course management was excellent to clean up, to get course ready for the tournament, and then also there were a fair amount of fans. I wasn't quite expecting that for the bad weather, but more than I was guessing, which made it even more exciting at the end of the playoff.
Yeah. We've talked about the players at the very top of the leaderboard and very bottom, but now I just want to talk about the people who made the cut, had good weeks, who I was rooting for and just have played well lately. I'll start off with definitely my favorite golfer, Harry Higgs, finished tied 52nd. I've already talked about him in previous podcasts, how much I like him. Great attitude, just a great guy all around. Finished tied 52nd this week at 9 under, and he's right. He just needs a burst of a good week, like a top 5, to make a surge to the top 70 in FedEx Cup and make the playoffs. Otherwise, he'll be having to regain his card through the Korn Ferry Tour, which would not be ideal, but he's made 2 straight cuts, and that's great to see. And then another player who was tied with Higgs at 9 under was Kyle Reefers, who Monday qualified. Yes, he Monday qualified into the Travelers last week and now into the Rocket Mortgage, and he made both cuts. And this week he had the legendary caddy Mike Cohen, nickname Fluff, who caddied for Tiger and other big names on the PGA Tour. He had him on the bag this week, and between Reefer's great golf and Fluff's great caddying, it's no wonder why they made the cut, and it was a great story to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how legendary Fluff has become as a caddy. I mean, over 40 years of service as a caddy professionally is pretty crazy, I believe, around that. So, and it's not like he's still at a high level with Reefers. I mean, making the cut after Monday qualifying back-to-back weeks is pretty crazy to do that on the PGA Tour. So, very impressed to them. Congrats to Reefers on that. I mean, it was a fun week with these names like that. That was a fun story. I was glad to see Garrick Higo make the cut. He's missed, I think, the last 3 cuts, so that was good to see him finish in 33rd at under 12. He's a name I've always liked from South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of guys that we like out here, and especially this week there seemed to be a lot of people that we enjoyed to watch, and it was just very entertaining all week, as it always is. But
and I was just going to mention before we kind of start wrapping up, is that we can't finish this episode without mentioning the albatross made by Dylan Wu at the Rocket Mortgage Classic this week in round 1. That was really special. I mean, he finished in 24th, I believe, but he had a special week. The albatross wasn't on camera, which really is frustrating because they're always fun to watch and they're super rare. But that's just an incredible feat for golfers to accomplish. Very rare, very unique.
That's making a 2 on a par 5. So 2 shots in on a par 5 is called an albatross, and it's extremely rare. Really wish they could have gotten a video of it, but that's how things are. So they didn't get a video of that, but still a great stat. Great tournament, great week. We'll see you after the John Deere Classic this week
at Silvis, Illinois.
And we think we're going to start, we'll just let you know, we think we're going to start a new series here soon about specific players in different sports, and then we should get you a baseball podcast here soon too. So lots to look forward to in golf and in diving into sports. But that's it for us.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember, you can listen to Diving Into Sports on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Pocket Casts, and Stitcher. We'd love it if you could follow us on all of those platforms. And check out our Twitter account. Our handle is @NashAndLyle.
By the way, we're now available on Google Podcasts as well.